unless they have those other key professionals, is that a formal part of your contract?
No, it's not a formal part of my contract, but it's an understanding that we are not going to, obviously, all of our projects are architect designed, which usually means that there's going to be a designer following in right behind it, because we can't really bid a project unless we have all the schedules. We need to have all the finished schedules. I need to know a finished schedule for the windows to price the windows. The plumbing fixtures, we can give you an allowance, but it's just like picking a number out of thin air. It could be 20, it could be 200, I don't know what it is.
Right.
So in order for us to accurately price the project for the client, someone needs to put together these schedules, and, which is invariably gonna be the architect
Architect or the designer.
and or the designer.
Right.
So, is there a designer here who's actually put together a schedule like that? Which
Absolutely.
coordinates it, coordinates
Absolutely.
everybody? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and did you feel that it was your responsibility, what you were hired for? Or
Absolutely.
was it just something that fell on your lap?
No, I believe it is my responsibility. But it kills me when I go to, like, say, Marvin Window or Greenaw Plumbing, and I'm with my client making all of these selections, and I see a builder or an architect with a client walking around aimlessly, like, what the hell am I doing here? And the client is asking them their opinion. And after a while, they'll see the interaction that I have with my client, and they'll kind of be like, could you tell me, does this fall? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, because you need a designer.
Exactly.
That's your problem. You need a design. And I come right out and give them my card, say, call me, and, or find someone that you could have this discussion with, because really the architect and builder does not want to do this.
Absolutely.
They don't.
Sal, this is to you. How does your trade show room benefit the design community? Because you could probably piggyback on that.
Well, specifically when it comes to merchandise, furnishings, that's really where we come into play. So what our objective is really to serve as a designer with a multitude of options, whereas we are a multi-line showroom, and to give them the back-end support that's really required when there's a lot of moving parts to the furnishings part, right? You have a lot of different components that are on each piece, fabrics, finishes, different vendors involved. So we help facilitate, the researching, because time is money, so we want to make you guys as efficient as possible. And then we help with the logistics side in terms of ordering and follow-up and problem resolution, and then even logistics in terms of delivery, consolidating. We have a lot of out-of-state projects that we get involved with designers, and that requires a lot more logistics than some of the local projects. So the benefit is that the designer can operate independently without having a large staff, and they're able to rely on us for those services.
I have a question for you, Sal. So, yeah, you do furnishings, but you also do, things that engage the architecture, like we see a lot of, chandeliers and things like that.
Sure.
So contractors have to schedule electricians to be able to install these things at certain times. They have to know how big it is, the weight of it, all this stuff, all the logistics behind that. At what point is that stuff dealt with in the process? Like, do you help the designer actually say, we got to deal with this stuff early? Like, how do you do that? Like,
So
is
usually-
the designer drive? I mean, are
Right.
you helping drive that process along in the right order?
We help guide it along. So the designer at that point is really the driving force there, because we don't have the relationship or the interaction really with the builder or the client. We deal direct only with the designer. So at that point, the designer is speccing the lighting from us. Clearly, they're on top of the schedule that needs to be targeted. And then what we'll do is we'll just follow up in terms of consolidating everything and then making sure all the fixtures are labeled for the rooms that they need to go in. So this way, when everything's delivered, everything's allocated to the right space. So we work with the designer, and they have to provide us with the timelines and all the criteria of the project. We'll provide any of the specs involved for the product. A lot of times the electricians need to know the weights on chandeliers, if there's any special issues with regards to how they should be installed. That will facilitate from the information from the manufacturer to the designer. But then at that point, the designer coordinates it between the builder, the client, the architect.
Ali, does that sound like it was with your experience when you were the consumer?
Yeah, the designer that we worked with was very knowledgeable, and she did work hand in hand with our builder and our architect. So they were a very good team, and there were times where they needed specs for lighting fixtures and things that she was picking, and she was able to provide everything that they needed to make sure everything was done seamlessly.
So it sounds like you had a pretty flawless experience. Is that what we're hearing? Everything arrived on time? And it's all beautiful and everything?
Perfect.
Come on.
Sure.
Can somebody get Ellie a cocktail so we can loosen her up? Tell us what happened, love.
I mean, pretty much everything that came in had something wrong with it.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, like we were at the point where we wanted to get the house saged. Like everything was coming in chipped or broken. I mean, we had a lot of issues, but
What did you order through the designer? What was it? Fabrics, couches,
it was an entire house. It's a
You
5.
built it from the ground up.
It was down to the studs. So
Okay.
she
She
did
helped
everything.
everything.
She helped us with tiles, kitchen cabinets,
Okay.
countertops, and then all the interior, bedrooms, sofas, artwork, accessories, everything. But like I said, I mean, everything came in with, I mean, even down to the artwork that needed to be touched up. But
Crazy.
How did she handle
And yet you still wanted to be an interior
I did.
designer.
Well, I figured everything already happened, so nothing else could
Having it the
happen.
other
She was
way.
great.
Just
She
couldn't
really
wait for
was.
another one of those experiences.
She was really good. She was very calm. And honestly, East End was fabulous. They sent people over to check what needed to be checked, to touch up what needed to be touched up, and things that were beyond repair were sent back and made good.
Did she warn you ahead of time, like, these hiccups happen, but we're there, we're gonna take care of it, or as they came along, she just handled it well?
I think it was more as it came along. I don't think you want to put that bad thought into a client's head first, but she was on top of everything, and I mean, really great at dealing with the issues that came up.
Did you at any time ever doubt her because everything was coming in? Like as a designer, sometimes I'm like, oh,
You get blamed for everything.
I know.
Yeah.
Everything is broken now too. Like I always make right, and my my vendors are great, and everything works out. But did you ever at any point feel like, oh my goodness, this is designer for real? Like where is she ordering?
I did. Honestly, I did. But again, the way she handled everything, and she was very good at communicating with me as to what was going on, and she was really on top of everything. So it was frustrating, and at times I kind of was just ready to be done, but she really handled it very well.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to renegotiate the billing or fees because of the problems that you were having?
No, because the way she structured it was that she charged us a fee for her services in terms of the selection. So picking countertops and tile for the bathroom and kitchen cabinets, things that I wasn't necessarily purchasing through her, she had charged me a fee for that. And then all the furniture and those things, she just did % off retail. So her profit was built into whatever her discount was. So it wasn't very transparent. I don't know exactly what she was making on it, but I knew that if I wanted to spend $5,000 on the sofa, I was going to spend $5,000. Whether she was getting it for $2,000 and charging me $4,000, and I felt good, I was saving $1,000. I don't really know, but at least I felt like I was getting a good value because she was providing her services and still giving me
But
quality
obviously,
things.
you had faith and trust in her, and that's what it was. You had faith in her. You
100.
trusted
I mean,
her.
she proved that
Right.
because she was very
Exactly.
upfront and very honest
Right.
about it. So I didn't really need to see those numbers because she made sure
Right.
that I was comfortable with
Well,
everything.
that's the whole thing. Once you have that relationship and that rapport, even when things go wrong, you know she's going to do the right
100%.
thing. And listen, something's always going to go wrong.
Of
I
course.
mean, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business. But you know, she took care of it. She got involved. She didn't ignore it, and that's the way it should be.
Right.
Keith, do
Agreed.
you charge the design fee as well with your clients?
Absolutely,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
And this is separate from purchases, or
Yes.
is that all it
Yes.
is?
Yes.
So can you break that down a little for us?
Well, it's I mean, I think everything is very a la carte. It has to be. You know, you're going to have clients that have construction. You're going to have clients that have architects on board. I charge differently for construction jobs than I would for just to decorate a space. So every fee, the structure of every fee is different. Like I don't have like some designers tell me they have a page and they just change the number. How could you possibly change a number? I mean, every design job is so completely different. Every house is different. Every apartment. So to me, every contract that I write is basically different. I mean, they all may, sound a little bit the same, but I mean, it really all depends on what the client brings to you, and that's how you price it. Obviously, if there's construction, there's a higher fee. If there's an architect involved and you're doing ground up construction, it's even higher. And I base a lot of my design fees on the time. It all depends on how much time you're really going to be spending with the client.
So you kind of look at the project, generalize how much time that's going to take you,
Yes.
and then charge accordingly.
And as a professional, I feel that within the first hour and a half that you sit down with the client, you should be able to absorb all of that, get that information, go back to your office, put it all down on paper, and create a contract for each individual client. And if you can't do that, you're doing something wrong.
Okay, I see a lot of hands, so we're going to just try and take all the questions. We started talking about money, and everybody got excited. Okay, go ahead. In the back right there.
So I have a two-person question. First of all, do you only charge a fee per project? You don't charge hourly? And how does that work when you have a client that spends 25 hours picking out sofas, and you want to
No, that's not going to happen with me. That's not going to happen.
Okay, but you're having clients that push that.
Yes, of course you're going to have that. But I base everything on a time schedule. I don't do hourly rate unless you're going to go over your time. So say I'm designing your living room.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 3 months to make all of your selections, okay? Not 3 months for everything to come in, 3 months to make all the selections. The carpet, the furniture, the fabrics, the window treatment, the light, everything that we're going to put in that room, I'm going to give you 3 months. And then after 3 months, if you can't make a selection, now we go into hourly. And that is in my contract. And I really feel that you have to talk about that up front, because in 3 months, if you're seeing someone 2 to 3 times a week, and you're making presentations on the best of what you could possibly give them, and there are no selections to be made, something is wrong. Something is wrong. It may not always be on your end, but something is wrong. So right after that 3-month time, you have to sit down and say, well, now we have to go into hourly because I brought you A through Z, and you still haven't made a selection. So.
And now my second part is, I don't know who this amazing designer is, but she didn't charge you a consultation fee. And it sounds to me like she didn't charge you hourly either. Did she charge you hourly or by project? How did that work?
She didn't charge me hourly. Her fee up front was like she calculated the amount of
I don't
time
charge hourly either.
That was for construction
for construction.
only.
Okay.
The fee was for construction only. So she had a full understanding of what the scope of work was. She calculated how much time she thought it was going to take to make all these selections and charged the fee for those selections. When we got into the furnishings, her services were kind of built into what she was making on the what she was purchasing for me. So like I said, it wasn't very she was upfront in saying that I'm going to charge you I'm going to give you a percentage off of retail. I'm sure it varied, and obviously now that I'm on the other side, I see it varies from line to line or whatever you're purchasing. But so she didn't give me a bill saying the sofa costs this much, my price is this, but I'm going to give it to you for this. I just knew up front that she was going to be, her time and effort was going to be compensated by what she was making on the purchases. And if you do that, if you build that in, you're able to, I mean, at least I think you're able to make enough if you calculate your time and effort. I mean, it has to be, you can't overextend yourself in terms of time and effort, but you want your clients to feel like they're getting, I felt like I was getting a good value because she was putting in all this time and purchasing great stuff and still making her.
Okay, we're going to go to your question.
Yeah, Keith. So on the construction end of things, there are some designers that are not in construction that often, but maybe they want to be in construction. They're just starting out in construction. When you were just starting out, obviously you didn't know how much time. Like, how did you, in the beginning, figure out what a construction job is gonna
Really
cost.
good question.
Listen, it is definitely based on knowledge. And every job, trial and error, every job, you're going to get more knowledge. But I mean, of course, we could be off with time, but after doing it for so often, you have got to know how much time you're going to put in. And quite honestly, when something goes a little bit longer than I think, I sit the client down right away. Because if you don't grab that right in the beginning and you let that ride 3 months, 6 months with building, you're going to be screwed. You will, and it's your fault because you didn't bring it to the table.
You had another follow-up question?
Back to the relationship between the architect, the designer, and the contractor. I have found in the past that there are a lot of architects that want to be project managers. And so I'm wondering.
You got to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Or she.
Yeah.
I have. Have you guys run into that, or is that something that's passe, or?
It's not passe. It's not. You're right. There are
still
some that want that.
That really is a conflict of interest.
It is.
You know?
I think it is.
Absolutely.
And as a designer, I know there are a lot of times that a client hires me before a contractor or an architect. So, and I help them through the process of hiring, the people for the job.
Right.
So I feel that makes me almost really like the project manager, because I have to make sure that everything's running properly. I connected them to these people,
But the
if it's
people you're recommending should be protecting you also.
Yeah, it works both ways. But then if the architect is hired first, that's a different story.
Yes.
But as far as the architect wanting to be a project manager, get rid of him is the consensus?
Immediately.
If not sooner.
Yes.
Some work for architects come from the contractor. A lot of the work that I do, the contractor is on board and the client starts there, and the contractor has an architect or two that he works with and brings the architect in, and then they bring the designer in. That happens many times. Or, like what you said, many times it could be me that's bringing in both the contractor and the architect. If it's the contractor bringing in the designer, we play by your rules, and if it's the designer bringing in the contractor, we play by our rules, meaning where the money comes from.
It's all about the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Owner is number one. Who has second position rules the project.
Right.
And being the supreme allied commander, I want to rule it, because it's all about managing client expectations. Residential projects, and that's why you like to do commercial, is all about emotions. It's all about managing client emotions.
It is.
Building houses is easy. Dealing with all the other nonsense, that's really what it is. Because I have got clients where Carolyn works for me, she's my marketing director in the corner, where I'm there yelling, cursing at clients on the phone because they curse at me, and I start, and they hang up. I'll put the phone on the counter, walk away, and yeah, okay, fine. And I'm there changing filters in the office, and we have a whack-a-mole game. We were beating on it and stuff. So yeah, but it's all about the hierarchy, because if the architect is second position, now I have to acquiesce to him. So if you got second position, now I've got to kiss your ring. So that's, and then you always have to be careful, because being the contractor, I got to sit in judgment of everybody that works for me. I've got to go play referee. And it's very important because you have a lot of power. And as we talked about before, we always have issues and there's always problems, but we always talk about it behind the scenes. You never know in our jobs that shit's going sideways because the plans are wrong, or something got misordered, or we screwed up, or the sub didn't show up. When the homeowner comes there, everything's great. We're all nice. We're all nice, big, happy family. And then we go back there and we're like, oh, we got to get rid of this. We got to figure this out somehow.
They don't need to know all that minutia.
No, they don't.
They don't need it.
They don't.
That is our job.
Keep them calm.
Yep.
That's right. I've heard designers complain and tell the client, oh, this, that. It's really none of their business.
Allie, I got to go to you. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the designer's job, is to make sure that when there is something that comes up, they handle it and make you feel that you're being taken care of.
So you just want to know that it's being handled.
I would like to know if there is an issue, but I would like to also know this was the issue and this is what we already did to take care of it.
Yeah.
Don't, right,
You need a solution.
right.
George, I was wondering, when you talk about having all of the schedules up front, I've been on some job sites where stub walls end here, do they end there? They're talking about window placements, they're selecting crown moldings, they're adding wainscoting. Are these the things that you run into issues with as the design progresses? Because I wouldn't think it would be very typical that when the blueprints hit your desk and you've got your permits in hand and you're ready to break ground, that every little detail of that house has already been determined.
98% usually is done. We try to flush out as much as possible, because it's all about accurate pricing for us. Now, sometimes we'll go in there and we'll have allowances for fixtures because they haven't been selected yet. But most of the, the interior, like, wainscoting and things like that, because that's going to affect your trim. What's the thickness of your wainscoting is going to affect the back band on the trim. You get a trim that's, say, 3/4 and you got a 1 inch on your wainscoting, you're minus 1/4 inch. So those things are usually worked out in advance, to a degree. It may not be 100%, and there's always adjustments. Design is an evolution, and we recognize that.
How do you communicate all of that information to your subcontractors that are doing work for you?
Well, we do site visits. There was discussion earlier. We control the schedule. We're the general contractor. I'm the Supreme Allied Commander. We set the schedule. When we do a project from the very beginning, we set weekly schedules. All of our projects have same day, same time, every week, always. So we know that every Wednesday at 8 a.m., we've got a site visit in Seacliff. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m., we've got one in Oldfield. And whether the electrician or the AV or the solar guy, whoever shows up, and this is a gold lead project, so we have 5 different lead consultants around the country involved. So we've got a lot of moving parts. But we all know that every Tuesday, 10 o'clock, there's a site visit. So if you have an issue, you come down here on Tuesday, and so we manage the project by knowing we have these days, because we have to manage the schedule, because we have liquidated damages on the back end of all of our projects. It says, okay, we're going to be done on this day. So you know what? If we're going to be done on this day, and I'm going to get beamed for $1,000 a day, I control the schedule, and I control everything, because if you're going to control the schedule, are you going to pay the $1,000 a day because this didn't happen? So we have to manage everybody's expectations, and we give them a little wiggle room, but at a certain point, it's like, we got to get this now because I need 12 weeks to order this in order to make this deadline. And unless you want to go, push the schedule back, and the owners sold their house and they're living in a hotel and we can't get in there. So it gets back to the managing expectations. They set a high bar, so we got to keep it right out there, and we've got to keep control of that, with the architects and the designers and everybody else. And everybody plays nice in the same sandbox. Once we get through, the beginning, all the as I mentioned before, all the egos, they're all put aside. We're trying to do this for the client. That's the objective. We're trying to make the client happy at the end of the day. We all want referrals from this, so that's the end game for us. So we just want to get done. Some clients, we just want to get out because they're such a pain in the ass. We can't get out quick enough.
Only a few of them.
Yeah. Oh, did you put that on tape?
Have you ever fired a client?
Yes.
Is this for everybody on the panel?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yes.
cousin, I fired her.
Oh, never work for family and friends.
Oh my
That's
God,
the
that was
worst.
terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, and you know what? I feel that in the beginning, you really want to hold on to everyone, so much that sometimes it's just bad for both. And you know what? Not everyone is made for everyone else. Like Callie said, you could be with people 2 to 3 years. I know, quite honestly, now for doing this for so long, I know within the first 10 minutes if we're going to work together. No matter what the money is, the architect, the build, I know within the first 10 minutes. I'm never wrong. I just know it. Not based on money, based on personality. That's it. It's based on personality, because I could tell right away if that person's for me, if I'm for them, if it's going to work. And it's not usually
But if you
based on
start,
money.
You invest time and money, and you realize this is not going to work, then you'll
Yeah.
say that instead.
And get out of
Absolutely.
it.
I'd rather walk away, with my head held high than walk away at the end and have the project destroyed.
I have a termination clause in mine.
Yeah.
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 In case you want to part ways.
Right. I mean, yeah. Listen, it happens, and it's not only.
You don't want to part ways and have open invoices.
Sometimes it's not only just personality. Sometimes it's money issues. You know, I mean, some of them fall on hard times. They have big expectations, and then sometimes they just don't have the money, or marriage problems. You know, there are always things. It's life. Unfortunately, it's life, and life happens. So we can't always predict what the future is going to be. But don't ever feel bad if you have to do that, because believe me, it's better to do it in the beginning than get fired at the end.
That's for sure. Sal, what about for you? Have you ever had to fire a client?
Well,
Are there any in here that
now we've never fired a designer because we don't work with clients directly.
Okay.
But over the years, I've seen it, and I think it is something that's realistic. What I've actually seen when we were on the other side of the fence working with clients, I know my mother has fired clients before, but what I've seen more often is when you threaten to fire them, it usually ships them up to shape. Like they usually change their tune at that point because they realize that they're not going to be able to get away with how
behaviors.
with their
Right.
behaviors
Right.
and expect you to continue working. So I've seen it where a client we've confronted clients, and my mother, said to them, "We can't work this way, so maybe it's just best we part ways." And all of a sudden, it was a totally different person from that point on. So sometimes it's really smart to do it in the beginning, like he said. Don't drag it to the end. You have to stay on top of it immediately.
We're in the service business, and unfortunately, we're people pleasers, and we want people to be pleased with what we do for them. But you can't always please everybody, and it's taken me a long time to realize that, but it does happen.
Who gets assigned to do what? Is it up to the homeowner to say, no, I want the designer's eye involved in here? And if the designer's picking all the pretty on the front of the wall, are you then responsible for the roughing on the back of the wall? Like, how do these things all get decided? Is this the communication in the meetings, or do you go in with a certain expectation? In order for me to be profitable, I need to do this, this, and this?
Our expectation is that we're going to have all the finish schedules like we talked about. The rough-ins are really going to be the layout. What's your tile layout on the wall? We want to see elevation, so we know where to rough everything in. As far as the trim profiles, we're pretty flexible. Whether it's the architect or the designer, somebody is giving us instructions as far as what profiles to do mock-ups for. But we're always getting that from somebody else. We're not in the business to specify anything anymore.
I think that's really between the designer and the architect, and then of course he's going to want the schedule. But I think.
How receptive are you to change orders when the client says, "Oh, I don't want window treatments on this window," and they put these big cove moldings up, and all of a sudden, it looks kind of empty in here, and I need window treatments, and now there's no place for me to mount my hardware, or they changed furniture placements, and now the plugs aren't lining up.
Sounds like somebody's speaking from experience.
No. I love change orders.
Yeah, they love change orders. That's how they make their money.
I love change orders, yeah. So,
Change orders
just
are.
sign on a dotted line.
Yeah.
We can do anything you want, if the client wants to come back and change things after the fact, that's perfectly fine. They just need to sign and pay. Really, if they want to, come back and second guess something, repaint rooms, move stuff around, move the window over 6 inches, that's fine. But you got to remember that there's time and money consequences for every action. When we do like electrical rough-in, we'll do a box out. We'll tack all the boxes through the house. You got a week to go through and move every box, do whatever you want. Once we start wiring, it's going to cost you money. And some of the clients don't understand this, because moving a plastic box or a metal box, from X to Y is fine. But if you got to move it after it's wired, well, now I got all this wire going way back to this light, and I got to rewire all that. So the 2 minutes to move this becomes 2 hours. And they have to realize that you have to respect our time and the sub's time. That there's a monetary cost and a time cost, but then it gets back to managing the client expectations, where we have to put a form together now and says, okay, we're done with rough-in. You need to sign this so that if you make any changes from today on, it's going to cost you money, because they're like, oh, well, the guy's there anyway. Well, it doesn't matter if he's there to do this. That's not part of his thing. It's like asking you, well, why are you here anyway? Can't you just help me with that? You're here anyway, right? What's another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
They don't respect and they don't value your opinion, they value your time.
We'll all do our closing commercials, I guess. Allie, you want to start? Just say the name of your company.
Oh, ABS Interior. ABS.
ABS Interiors.
Interiors.
Got it. And you are located?
In Belmore.
Got it. Sal, we all know where you are, but if you want to say a few words.
Sure. One common theme that we were hearing tonight was on, communication, expectations, and budgets came up. And just like George mentioned how nowadays they have to bid a job and they have to be pretty much accurate to what the cost would be. And Keith shared about, pricing design projects and fee structures and now his experience as well. But also when it comes to furnishings, we find that when designers prepare a budget in the beginning of a project on what the actual furnishings and fixtures would cost in advance, we find that the process goes a lot smoother. And it does take a little bit of upfront work to get that done, but I think it pays dividends in the end. And I think it's something that everybody should consider if it's something you don't do. But in the beginning of a project, once you understand the scope of the work, you really should be able to outline a range of budget for the areas that you're focusing on. And what you're doing is you're setting the expectations. So if you're providing them services and you're presenting things that are within the style that they like and within the budget range that you promise them, then really there's no reason for them to drag and for something to go on with a multitude of other reselections or for time to just continue without any progress being made. So we found in our experience, and again, the designers that do this in the beginning, it is a little bit of upfront work, but it pays in the end because you go through the process much smoother and much faster, and you avoid a lot of the bumps that you hit when the client is presented with something that you thought is a good value, or you think is a good value, and you think they would go for it, but not realizing that in their mind they had a completely different number in mind on what that item was going to cost. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we suggest to designers all the time to develop a budget in the beginning of the project. This way you could establish the direction from the very beginning. Within the first 2 to 3 meetings, really, you should have that established, and then you work from there.
Good advice, Al. Thank you. Go ahead, Keith. Anything?
Keith Mazzy Interiors, you all know who I am now. And as a designer, if any of you have a question or you need to talk or you want a suggestion or a lead, I'll be glad to help.
Very nice. George?
The best contractor on Long Island. Should we end it there?
That's great. Great, thank you, George. Rio Hamilton, everybody. Nice to see you. I forgot to do my commercial. I have a new client. I told you guys I do branding and marketing for different interior design companies, and I have a new one, which is Badilla Painters. So they work very well with contractors and interior designers, resources, and interior designers. So just so that you know, they're in Bridgehampton. Okay? And I've got cards if you need.